hold these truths to be self-evident that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly, all experience has shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evinces a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. The world is waking up, and this is the tipping point.
Gentlemen, Scott McKay, welcome you to live. Tonight's broadcast is streaming on Rumble, as you know, and also this is a tipping point. The high-octane, full-throttle truth hammer raining a shitstorm down on the global criminal cartel, i.e. bankers, royal families, big tech CEOs, Hollywood, and the political class in Hollywood that has been wrecking the human experience of spiritual ascension here in this heavenly realm that once was called Eden. For now, we'll settle with what we're doing with Terra, which is planet Earth itself, and just cleaning up the shit show that we've actually allowed happen to us and this planet ever since Christ walked this earth and showed us the way. To no fault of our own, the reason we couldn't maintain it is because the power structure got control of the narrative even back then, and in many ways distorted Christ's message and his life and disempowered it to a degree. But it just goes to show you how much power there is in that life, because although they've been trying to bury humanity ever since he walked the planet, they still haven't succeeded. We've grown from, a couple 100 million to billions. So no matter how many of us they wipe out or kill, they just can't win. They can't seem to understand that they can't win. They win battles, but the ultimate war will be won right here, fought right here on this planet and from this seat on this particular network. Revolution Radio, folks, was the opening salvo for this mission, this operation, and it does continue today. And it's become very interesting over the last couple of years because many things we thought would happen haven't, and many things that we thought wouldn't happen have. What does that say? What does that mean? What it means is you are watching a movie. You do not know what the outcome is or when it is. You don't know. There are no subtitles here. So what you have to do is kind of read between the lines on everything that is happening. And I listened to the dissension in the ranks. It was just kind of stunning to me because everybody wants their cake and they want to eat it too. And they want to order more, and they want multiple flavors, and they want it with thin icing. They want it with heavy icing. They want to have it in an outdoor setting, or they want to have it in an indoor setting. You just can't seem to please everybody. Some people can't be pleased at all. But the reality of what we have seen in the last 10 years since the day Trump announced his run for the presidency has been an unbelievably epic upset of the global apple cart and the world order's plans to do what you now have seen, what they've been trying to do just in the last 5 to 6 to 8 years. They've been at it for a very, very long time. Make no mistake, regardless of what you expected to happen by now or what hasn't happened, and what hasn't happened, does not mean that this battle does not continue. I want to remind you folks one thing, and I'm speaking to the choir. This doesn't even apply to you. Let's face it, we'll have an MTP or two pop in here in the chat room. Mods, go ahead and smack them around a little bit. And the rest of you folks in there, pile on whenever you want when they say stupid stuff. Give them the Patriot, Streetfighter, welcome to the show. I'll let you guys handle that. But those people that constantly complain about this, one thing they do not understand is this. And this is a stark reality that you don't have to face, most of you. every single day on this planet, American Special Forces operators and those of dozens of other countries around the world are dying on this battlefield every day, above ground and below ground, every single day. So the audacity that some of us have become impatient when these men and women are fighting in virtually impossible and in many cases absolutely terrifying and terrorizing conditions. Sometimes we need to step back and stop acting like children and try to empathize with the families of these soldiers who are killed in these operations that are never going to live to see the day of the satanic realm being eliminated from the planet, and watching the Garden of Eden be rebuilt. That's why I have an immeasurable amount of patience for what's happening. I clearly can see many things happening that would not be visible to me had I not had my eye on this ball for 35 years, watching this global, whatever you want to call it, this global order and how it shaped and drove and twisted and distorted nations, destroyed nations, built others. This is something that's been going on from a playbook that they have had, the other side has had for millennia. And that playbook is a continuous repeat. It's wash, rinse, repeat. Build humanity, take as much of the production resources as they can, collapse it after they purchase what they did, take back everything they have for pennies on the dollar, pump it up again, collapse it again, take what they got, pump it up again, collapse it again, take what they got. Folks, this cycle doesn't seem, at least in your purview, doesn't seem like a repeat process. But again, we've only been alive for a couple of decades on the planet, most of us. And the reality is they're doing this over a span of many, many decades and generations. So if you were alive since 1900, you'd be sitting here agreeing with me and have a whole lot more information than I have, saying, oh yeah, I can give you, look at all these years that they did this, collapsed economies, and they take back what they sell us after they pump the price up. So to think that this thing is not evolving, in my opinion, is simply an intellectual farce. We've watched the rollout of the military intelligence operation known as Q. Here we say it. We don't walk away from any term here, whether it's the Q operation, QAnon, Anon's, CIA, rogue CIA, you name it. We don't want militia. We don't walk away from any terms here. We stand in truth and light no matter what. And so what you always get from here, from this seat, is exactly that. But make no mistake, there is no way on earth, number one, that Donald Trump would even be alive today if we weren't winning this thing. You wouldn't see the shakeup in the financial systems. You wouldn't see Vladimir Putin coming out telling the world that it's going to be de-dollarized. You wouldn't see him coming out in the open and telling the world that the global power structure are addicted to adrenochrome in the blood of babies. This is something the man has been saying in front of the entire world. This would not be in the public space if the global order hasn't been weakened, upset, destroyed in many ways. So that's what we're here tonight to talk about with my friend John Michael Chambers. You're going to see him in a couple of minutes. So enjoy tonight's show. You're going to get some great information. John is connected with some very high-level military, active and retired active duty people, spec ops field, intelligence, you name it. But we'll get to that in a second. I got a couple of sports shorts to throw at you. I don't have any announcements to make. Oh, I do have one thing. I was able to go visit Household of Faith Church this weekend. Pastor Bob Joyce hadn't seen him for quite some time, so I had a chance to see my friends up there at Household of Faith, and that's at the new church. And by the way, many of you people can't make it there. I know because of distance or whatever, but to me, it's always a beautiful experience simply because just the fact that here's a very unique man on earth that truly carries the consciousness of Christ. Personally, from my seat, I don't know if I've ever met anyone on this earth that is closer to walking in those shoes than this man. And it was just great to see when they bought 9 acres. They were a small church. They needed a bigger one. Bought 9 acres of property. And there was a barn, a new barn, never used, beautiful horse barn. They converted into the chapel until they build the main the big church. So this isn't something that was put out there or even requested. And I don't know why I thought about this recently, but I'm going to give you some information here. If you can't ever come to hear him preach, hear his sermon, hear him sing, hear his voice just when he talks, what I would say is it'd be a wonderful thing if you wanted to participate to just, you don't have to be there to make. And what I love about the church, they don't pass a plate around. If you want to make a donation, there's a box out on the wall. When you walk out, you can stick an envelope in a box. And Pastor Bob Joyce takes zero salary, never has. All monies go directly to the church. This might be probably too intimate information, but I still think it needs to be said. Here's a man that does not make a living on the church, lives on, Social Security, those kind of things, a very, very humble lifestyle, and just full of nothing but good grace in the Christ consciousness. So I always enjoy being able to pop something in a box or deliver special envelopes or whatever, like to support the church. So I'm going to say to you folks out there, if you would love to support the work that Pastor Bob Joyce is doing, I hope they don't get upset with me for doing this, but I'm doing it anyways because it's all coming from the right place in my heart. If you'd like to donate to the church, to the new church that's going to eventually be built, you can send a Christmas card or maybe a donation to Household of Faith. That's Household of Faith. And I'm going to give you the address here. I'll put it in the description box at the end of the show, or maybe Lisa can put it in during 8408 Samples Road, kind of like Junior Samples from Hee Haw. Samples, Samples Road. And that's in Benton, Arkansas, Benton, Arkansas. Zip there is 72008. If you choose to send a Christmas card over there, and if you want to make a donation, if you write a check or something, just put down in there a memo, Patriot, Streetfighter, put a smile on their face that we're out here supporting their church in a way that they didn't expect. But again, that's Household of Faith, 8408 Samples Road in Benton, Arkansas, 72018. I'm really looking forward to seeing the dream of having this beautiful structure of a church one day sitting on that property. It's going to be quite a project. And also, I want to give a shout out to my friend Kaylee. She's my side. She's my part-time girlfriend. Here's Kaylee. She made me this. She made me this mug this past weekend. I get gifts sent to me all the time. This beautiful young lady. She has a heck of a story. She's quadriplegic. I think she was 19 when she was in this car crash. This is her here with her little doggy and her family right there. Just an absolute beautiful soul. People think they get a raw deal in life. And here's this beautiful girl. She's my buddy. And just has nothing but magical energy in her eyes every single day of her life. We have everything to be grateful for as long as we are breathing and you have people around you care about and love you. And it is that season. So you can see I'm at one with the Yuletide, getting a little sentimental right now, but that's just how much I love people. I love humanity. I love all the folks. I got a chance to see all my friends up there in Benton this past weekend. Much love to all of you. Thanks for always welcoming me so graciously when I do come. It's a beautiful thing to be around beautiful people, real American people, the ones that really count and make this world go around. Got a couple of things that I want to, just want to pull out, a couple of points that make me laugh at the stuff that, that I see that come up on social media. When I see these things, okay, we're going to pull out some of this just to see some of the lunacy, the absolute lunacy that comes out of the world. I'm trying to find out where these notes are. Open up my email. I got to always look back and see what I sent Lisa to bring up. Okay, here we are. If we can play this first one, I want you to understand, folks, this is what the Democrat Party in this country, I'm not talking John Kennedy's party. That's long dead. That's long gone. I'm talking about the lunacy of the liberal left. And the mindset they have is truly a mental disease. Check this out. This is one of our woke lunatics. And just look at this. Look at this picture that you're going to see here. It's the most bizarre thing. Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama. Thanks, Obama. Here's what it looks like in their world today.
I have been misgendered 3 times in the past 24 hours at restaurants. Last night, I was at Benihana with my girlfriend, and the server said, "What about you, sir? What would you like to eat?" My girlfriend, God bless her heart, steps in, says, "Actually, that's ma'am." And she looks at my girlfriend and didn't really understand what had happened and said, "No, I'm talking to him," pointing at me. Our jaws were on the floor, and we decided to leave because it was just a bad vibe after that. And just a few minutes ago, I was at another restaurant for lunch, and they showed me my seat and said, "Here you go, sir." And I said, "I am not a sir." And then I left because I wasn't comfortable anymore. And I went to a new restaurant, and I asked, "Before I sit down, where's the bathroom, please?" And they said, "Oh, it's right this way, sir." And I just left because I wasn't comfortable anymore. If you're a server in the food industry, you don't need to use words like sir or ma'am. There are ways to be respectful without using those words. And if you get it wrong for someone like me, I will probably leave the restaurant. And it puts like a bad vibe on my day when it happens, especially when it happens 3 times in a row.
All I can say is, look, I don't ever get into these situations. I can't say he or she when I'm addressing these kind of people. I just say it, because that way I can't get in trouble. Just look at it, folks. Where do you want it to send? Can I send its order over there? If you want, folks, if this one just gave us the absolute playbook to get them out of our public spaces, just call them sir. I saw this dude, it's the most ridiculous thing. He says long blonde hair, dressed like a woman, has a deep voice, like a 5 o'clock shadow, maybe an 8 p.m. shadow, and flipping out because the person behind the counter called him sir. "I'm not a sir, I'm a ma'am," and just flipping out. I don't know. I could have never imagined a TV comedy series like this, that America has become this, but you have to be able to stop every now and again, folks, and appreciate the circumstances on the planet you've been given, because quite honestly, there isn't one nighttime talk host anymore that can make us laugh. They're all morons that are all political and turned into lunatics themselves. We got everything we need in this world just looking at social media with these characters that pop up every now and again. So talk about brightening my day and bringing some humor into it. When I see these, I'm just like, absolutely, thank God you people are part of this. Here's another one. This is a little more on a serious note. This is, again, as I have said for years, every time we back these people into a corner that are crooked, liars, thieves, whatever they are, and they stand up in front of the world with this holier than thou, absolute authority and power. This is the way it is, and you're going to listen to me and do what I say or else. Well, again, and this is just a microcosm example. This cleanup has happened everywhere. But like I've said, all these criminals, especially the political class, which I loathe because I've had my experience with them for decades, when they are criminals and commit crimes and get caught red-handed, they all lie. They stand in front of the world lying and denying and going on talk shows, and then they get convicted, and it's irrefutable. What do? Like the MTPs they are, they break down and they start bawling. I mean, man, if I played the game the way they did and I got backed into a corner and outed completely, I couldn't imagine standing in front of the world crying like an MTP, begging for forgiveness. Look, I'm not talking just about these lunatics. I'm talking about, I remember Duke Cunningham and the last American Boy Scout, fighter ace from the Korean War, shot down 5 planes in a dogfight at the same time. And he's iconic, last Boy Scout, becomes a Republican congressman from Manhattan Beach, somewhere in Southern Cal, behind the Orange Wall. What did he turn out to be? Another scumbag. The face of virtue turned out to be a scumbag living on the Potomac River in D.C. on a $2 million yacht, and just other bullshit that went on. Same thing. All of them. Doesn't matter if it's Rod Blagojevich, whoever it is, whatever governor, whatever senator, they lie their asses off. And then when they finally are back, like these tough murderers, same thing. When they're sentenced, they do this. Let's see the judge, how she's responding to her sentence that she's been given here, kicked out of the courts.
And so I thought it was possible I could continue to serve that office. I was wrong. After 3 weeks of training, and getting prepared for the next week, that Friday I left work. I walked to the metro station. I got on the train and I pulled out my phone and I saw a litigation hold that had been put on it. And attached to that was a memo that gave Mr. Martin permission to fire probationary employees from the Capitol Siege section that were moved to other places in the office. The memo referenced people, but didn't have a list of names attached. But the information provided was confusing. I knew I was probably on the list, but I didn't know exactly what was going on. I headed back to the office so I could figure out what was happening. I was met by my colleagues who shared their confusion and a heartbreak over this sudden event. We left the office, and 2 hours later, the letters started rolling in, terminating us. At the end of the night, 15 assistant U.S. attorneys had been fired. The termination letter I received stated the decision was based on your actions in the prosecution of persons relating to the events that occurred at or near the U.S. Capitol on January 6, 2021. An executive order issued on January 20th, 2025, the president characterized that work as having involved a grave national injustice that has perpetrated upon the American people over the last 4 years. It went on to say that my hiring has hindered the ability of the acting U.S. Attorney Martin to staff his office in furtherance of his obligation to faithfully implement the agenda that the American people elected President Trump to execute. The termination letter made it clear to me that Mr. Martin does not understand the role of a prosecutor. U.S. attorneys represent the United States of America, not the president. Firing 15 qualified attorneys created an immediate deficit in the office to appropriately prosecute cases.
Enough said. I mean, what else can you say? How do you comment on this person? They're pathetic. They're absolutely pathetic. That is the power structure we've had to deal with all these years. It is hard to remove all of them quickly. It takes time, primarily because everything is being done according to the unjust and illegal laws that they pass, or statutory mandates that they push through agencies that have nothing to do with our Constitution. It's hard to get them all and get them quickly, but all you have to do is get them to take a half a step backwards, and then you got them. And what do they turn into? They turn into what you see right here. That's why I have no fear of this power structure and no respect for it, because any one of these people who are in there who haven't done anything like this lady has been quiet for too long. They should have been in town halls for the last 15 years, raising hell to their constituents, say, this is what's going on in Washington, and my own party's part of it. That's what a true hero does. The rest of them, cowards. They know it. We know it. We know what they've been doing to this planet, this country. And of course, if we know, you and I, they all know. And they've done nothing but stand by and let it happen or help facilitate it. The vast majority is helping facilitate it. The last thing I just want to point out, last sports short for the day, isn't it awesome? They're starting to deport these Somalis. They're starting to get them out of the country. And, again, I always put myself in a position for all kinds of attacks, which is okay with me. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't ever get anywhere. But at least they try. I'll give them an A for effort. Who knows what kind of I'll probably call it a racist on this one, but I don't really give a shit. I want them all out. You came in here illegally, out. I saw a lady being taken away from her husband's Hispanic lady, and he seemed like a nice guy. He's crying, of course, like you'd expect emotionally. There's kids there. And there's the human side of us, the compassion we have. Imagine your family being broken up. The simple fact is this. They committed a crime to come here. They knew before they came here it was illegal, and they committed a crime to get in here. They lied. They get on these social services. They're sucking the lifeblood out of the American taxpayer, laughing about it. And if they're not laughing about it, they're taking what doesn't belong to them on our backs as we struggled for decades just to get somewhere in this life, and they get it for free. I have compassion from the human side, but quite honestly, with what we're now finding out, especially with the Somali community, I don't give a shit. They can start lining up C-5A Galaxy planes and stuff all these people in and start flying them back. I don't know if the number's accurate that I've seen, but we may be up to about $12 billion now that this Somali community in Minnesota has hawked you, the taxpayer, with the help of Tim Waltz, the horse gobbler. This guy has helped facilitate all this. These people are living in mansions, and I mean, and I don't mean a couple. This whole community, these people are living like you can't live, working your ass off. They're driving 2 new cars, high-end cars. These people are driving Mercedes. That's what they did to this country. So I don't care, President Trump, how you get them out. Get them out. We've had enough. The communities that live around these people, they've had enough. We don't give a shit if you call us every name in the book, racist, whatever you want to say. I could care less. Get them out. It is time we fortify this nation, take it back, stop this insanity of these political scumbags raping the hardworking middle-class taxpayer and giving these people lives that they could never have and lives that you could never have, even working your ass off. This is why I have disdain for the political class. When somebody's raised hand and say, I want to run for office, I just look at them. I'm like, who would want to walk into that world? They're never going to make a difference. They don't. You know who's going to make a difference? You, me, we the people. We make the difference. We are going to clean this shit show up, and we are going to run this country once we get this republic restored. That will be the end of it. Let's see this this nonsense in the Somali community.
So there's this basically huge fraud scheme that's unraveling in Minnesota. So it turns out that Minnesota has this program called the Housing Stabilization Services Program. And of course, Minnesota is home to this guy, Tim Walz, which of course puts the whole story on Donald Trump's radar. So now we have this breaking news that Trump is terminating the temporary protected status for Somalis in Minnesota. So the backstory here is that Minnesota went on a mission to create their own huge welfare system, and they did, and they basically kept expanding their own state-level House and Human Services Department. And for a state, honestly, it's pretty big. It grew from $15 billion in 2022 to $23 billion in this next fiscal year, and basically 42% of all new spending goes to this welfare system that they're setting up. And most of it goes to this Housing Stabilization Services Program, which became this whole snowball of fraud, which got even more attention because it turns out a lot of the money ended up in the hands of Al-Shabaab, which is a group that we are currently fighting against in Somalia. And the thing with this HSS program is that they designed it in Minnesota as an honor system, which I gather means that you could basically go and spend the money first and then get reimbursed by the state. And the logic here was that if you needed housing, then you should basically be able to go and just pay for it without getting approval of anything and then charge it back. Turns out that was catastrophic. So you have like some defendants, these people that called themselves brilliant minds, they defrauded the government of about $2.3 million. You have this other one called Liberty Plus Housing Consulting, where the owner was driving a Mercedes and telling his employees to bill as much as they could. Looks like they got about $1.2 million in fraudulent Medicaid funds. So then the state did this emergency executive order where they're terminating the program. But that just kicked off this whole other investigation, which honestly was crazy because then it gets into autism, where basically people start looking into the number of autism service providers in the state, and it turns out that they've increased by 700% over the past 5 years, going from 41 providers to 328, a 3,000% increase in billing to $192 million. So basically, it seems like Minnesota was doing so much in terms of setting up these fraudulent autism centers that it was actually driving the autism statistics for the nation higher. And then it turns out that Al-Shabaab is getting a bunch of taxpayer money. And then it gets into people investigating this organization called Feeding Our Future that was getting more taxpayer money. And one of the things that set that investigation off is that this person who was also defrauding the autism program got $14 million and bought real estate in Kenya with this money. But then it starts to tie into these high-profile Minnesota politicians like the mayor. So it turns out that the mayor's aide actually pleads guilty in a $250 million scheme to defraud taxpayers, and it looked like maybe some of the money was making it to the mayor. So now the mayor is going to have to testify in court. And then Ilhan Omer gets involved because her deputy district director was at the party for one of the ringleaders of this fraud ring, and they were making donations to Ilhan Omer. And one of her staffers even had to plead guilty to fraud. And then there's this guy who was a pretty serious candidate for mayor. I think he's a state senator. And basically, he set up a system where it was really easy for the money from this huge fraud scheme to come into his campaigns. And then when they start to actually prosecute the fraudsters, they do all sorts of wild stuff, like give one juror $120,000 in cash in a bag to try to get them to not convict them. And one of the things that's kind of happening behind the scenes is this concept called Hawala, which I had never heard of before. But basically, it's this sort of informal banking network that is really active in basically the African communities. And this one detective with the Seattle police said that even one of these banking networks was doing $20 million of transactions per year. And Al-Shabaab controls a bunch of the territory where the money's going. So they basically just like take fees and extort along the way. And then you get this like Democrat identity politics stuff starting to come in because the Minneapolis City Council starts to investigate it. And then basically these people like her start saying that this is the only reason that they're looking into this. And this puts Tim Walz in a pickle because Tim Walz is like king of identity politics. And it really just starts to kind of bring into question this idea of immigration with a particular sort of tribal group. Because, you know, you see these reports where they talk about community of refugees, they're from a certain place. And then Ilhan Omer, this lady, she basically is giving this speech and she's talking about some foreign policy incident between, I think, Ethiopia and Somalia. And somebody asked her, okay, cool, so what is the US government going to do about it? And her response is, the US government's going to do what we ask it to do. This country is one where your daughter sits in Congress, and while I'm in Congress, no one will take Somalia's seat. So basically, it kind of starts bringing into question this idea of like, all right, so then you're in the US Congress, but are you representing not US interests? And I personally am not settled on that issue. I think it's, you know, complicated and subtle, but I do think this is why when Donald Trump closed USAID, even though the old guard didn't like that, a lot of Americans supported it because it turned out that we see that this whole nonprofit government funding ecosystem turned out to be a gold mine for these nonprofits and for the people at the top of them. And I just think that this is an example of the kind of thing that makes a lot of voters suspicious of the way that Democrats do things. Big government, lots of money into these welfare programs, lots of opportunities for fraud. I mean, the honor system. And then throw in a healthy dose of it all being about identity politics. And I just think a lot of people are out. They don't want to be a part of that.
Well, I don't know what to say about that. I mean, look at it, folks. I firmly believe, I think it was called the Mumford Act. It was rescinded back in 1990 that disallowed in this country for Muslims to hold office. You say, well, that is racist. What about freedom of religion? It's not religion. It's a civilization. Laura Logan was on here a couple weeks ago. And I don't know if she said it on the show or we were talking at the event we met at a couple weeks ago here in Dallas. And she was with a number of clerics, Muslim clerics, and it might have been in Iraq, I believe, maybe Afghanistan. I don't remember, probably Iraq. And when she brought up a topic of conversation about, you know, Muslim religion, and they just kind of snickered amongst themselves. She's like, what are you guys laughing at? You know, and one of the clerics said, Islam is not a religion, it's a civilization. And I thought, whoa, you stated it clearly. We now can see what is happening in this country. We have mosques, be it 25 new mosques here in the Dallas area, in areas where there's not a single Muslim living. This is a game plan. This is a civilizational takeover. They build these mosques, and then they start bringing them in. And we end up with this kind of bullshit. Right now, there are two countries. Denmark is one, and I don't know if the other one is Poland or Hungary. They're bulldozing every single mosque in the nation. I've seen video of it. They're bulldozing them. They're getting this stuff out. Unfortunately, again, there's a lot of good people who are Muslims. I have friends who are people that are very dear to me, but that's not what this is about. I won't mention a name, but one person said to me, she said, Scott, my family, and she's from a Muslim nation. She says they don't go to mosques. They're all, highly educated professionals and successful people. She said they don't go to mosques. She said the only people that go to mosques in my country are the radical fundamentalists. I thought that's a breath of fresh air, because it explains why there are so many good ones. The reality is their baseline tenet is the takeover of all civilization on the planet and force Islam into the house of everybody. That is a political movement. That sure as hell is not a philosophy. So I believe we need to bring the Mumford Act back, and all the dual citizens in Congress, they need to go. I think we have 230 dual citizen U.S. Israeli citizens in the country. We need laws passed, executive order. They need to go. If you are pledging loyalty to, I don't even care if it's Israel, it makes no difference to me. You're pledging loyalty to another nation outside of this one, you can't serve in Congress. Anyways, that's my little rant for tonight. Let's jump into what's happening around the world. We'll launch off this pad with my friend John Michael Chambers, folks. I would say he's one of the two responsible for helping elevate my Patriot Streetfighter mission from the very beginning. I might have been the first. I don't know if I was the first show host you pulled in for that network or not, John. It was early on, but you and Dr. Kirk Elliott were the ones that had to lay out a track that allowed us to scale this operation and do what we do. And it was a privilege and an honor to be on your network, American Media Periscope. You built a network nobody has ever done before, a unique model that nobody had ever accomplished before. And having not only that in my circle, also the wisdom on the financial side of the world and how to play that game. Number one, the Patriot Streetfighter Nation in general owes you a huge amount of gratitude, you and Dr. Kirk, because since they came in buying silver back when it's 17, 18, 19 bucks, I don't know what it did today, but it's close to $60 an ounce. Some people bringing their IRAs and 401ks over, putting them in, boom, now they're triple what their value was. So it's been nothing but win-win the whole way across the board with you. And then on top of your perspective of what's happening in this battle has been nothing short of critical in its analysis to help people understand exactly what's happening here. So good to have you here live from Thailand, which you now call home, where your family is, and makes things a little more difficult to schedule with you. But, good thing we got Monday night shows, because we can get you in the morning your time. Good to have you, my friend.
Good to see you, Scott, and thank you for your kind words. And when I've said this before, I'll be brief. When I stumbled upon Patriot Streetfighter Scott McKay, that stellar first massive broadcast that went viral, I said, well, who is this guy? Where did he come from? And long story short, several months later, we were able to reach out to you because you were somebody, in my view, that absolutely needed to be supported as one of the most important voices of our time, certainly in the top tier in the new media world. And so it was an honor for both Dr. Elliott and I to, align with you. We became good friends over the years. We've hobnobbed in a lot of different events and different things over the period. And everybody has benefited. Your viewers who've listened to Dr. Elliott on the podcast and have acquired gold and silver, they've benefited. You've benefited. Kirk's benefited. I've benefited. And we've all ultimately benefited because President Trump, as I understand, is going to back our currency by gold again and perhaps other commodities into a stable coin, into a QFS. So what a ride it's been for all of us. And I'm just happy to be a little here. There we go. Let me dabble with this and hope I don't.
Can you hear static pop up, John, on your end? From every so many seconds. Can you hear right now, John? Can you hear me, John? Can you hear me? Good. Do you hear that static that was popping up there about every 10 seconds?
No.
It was coming through in the broadcast over here. It seems to be gone now. So hopefully, I don't know what that was. I was muting out to make sure it wasn't mine. So let's talk, because you just mentioned that. Let's talk about what this entire spectrum looks like on this global reset, beginning with the financial side. What exactly is unfolding here, based on these moves that have been made with Trump and Treasury? What do you see happening in terms of this reset of the global financial system?
Well, as you know, and I'm sure your audience is well aware, obviously we're at war. We're at war to take our country back and restore our constitutional republic. And one cannot do that if the control of our currency is still in the hands of the enemy. The Great American Coup of 1913, of course, is what kicked that off with the Federal Reserve Act signed into law by Woodrow Wilson, who later regretted it in his memoirs. So having said that, moving right to where we are today, and to address your question, you go back to 2020, and that's when the president actually made the first official moves, President Trump, in the beginning of a series of steps, as I see it, to dismantle the Federal Reserve and its cousin, the Internal Revenue Service, the 16th Amendment of the unconstitutional income tax code. So President Trump made a move back then in 2020, bringing some of the powers into the Treasury away from the Federal Reserve. That is when it actually began. So it's been a slow move. The president certainly has made a lot more moves since, and has been very vocal about it. I mean, folks listening, I'm sure you know this, but when the president of the United States says numerous times in the course of a week, for many weeks, if not months, on Truth Social and X and press conferences and cabinet meetings and so forth, that we no longer have a need for the federal income tax, you take that dot, and he explained why, because of the hugely successful External Revenue Service and the tariffs alone, never mind everything else. Look, folks, the Federal Reserve is being dismantled, and so is the IRS. That's what's happening if you connect the dots and follow the president. You don't need to, follow Scott, follow some of your key important sources. But the president's a pretty good darn source, and so is Dan Scavino. And I know it seems unreal and not possible. I get it, but it is real. Not only is it possible, it's underway. And the entire new system, as I understand it, and I'm not an expert in QFS by any stretch of the imagination, but we are transitioning from the debt-based, money is debt, fiat-based system controlled by the central bank, the Federal Reserve System. We're moving away from that 115-year nightmare into, in a series of steps, a quantum financial system. No need for central bank, and the issuing of the currency will be backed by gold and silver, as the Constitution states. And I'll just say this, and I've been a little long-winded, but I like to quote the president. So he said in 2016, before the world, when he took the oath and became sworn in 45, and he brought out the military brass as a big statement to say, I'm giving you back your country. Well, we're restoring the power back to the people. For those that are still naysayers, Debbie Downers, are not sitting, hanging on the fence that we're never going to get rid of the Fed and the IRS, we are. How can the president, who's kept his promises, restore our constitutional republic back to us if we don't have control of our money? It's one of the major battles that this war is based on. Defunding the terrorists, defunding the child traffickers, defunding all of these things. That's a multi-pronged approach that the president and Hegseth and so forth are doing on multiple fronts with the Global Alliance all across this world. And the QFS will prevent them from being able to fund the activities. And that begins the healing process of the world. The morals get raised. You're all in check because AI knows everything, and you can't screw around with it anymore. That's how I see it, and I can delve into it in a lot of other ways. But silver's up almost 100% year to date. Hello. So your guest and our good friend, who I've known 15 years, Dr. Kirk Elliott, has steered everyone in the right direction without question. And folks, and I'll pipe down right after this, Scott. Folks, it's not too late. The majority, if not all of the analysts, metals analysts, economic folks, people in the know, military intelligence, people with stature have all stated the same narrative. The amount of growth we've had, we probably have that much more, if not more, ahead of us. So it's not too late by any stretch of the imagination. So it's exciting and it's confusing also at the same time. And I can get into all kinds of things wherever you want to take this, but global financial reset is a war, is a battle, one of the key battles within the ultimate war that we are fighting. Follow the money, right? Everything without the money, no money, no honey, no money, no sex trafficking, no money, no drugs coming into the country, no money, no fake news information, no money, big pharma goes away. It all is connected and we're winning.
Yeah, and that's exciting. I mean, I was just talking to Kirk here, I don't know, probably 3 weeks ago. We're doing a show. His office was in the background. We're chatting, and we were just kind of talking in an excited fashion of how grateful the Patriot Streetfighter Nation is, because obviously we believe what we believe, and you hope it works out that way. But there were people, like I said, buying $16 or $17, $18, $19, $20 an ounce. I think the lowest I bought was around 20 and then 23 and some higher than that. But you're looking at nearly $60 an ounce, and we're not even close to stopping this thing. And, people, if you're looking at how this has transpired all through the course of time, that's why I never invested in the stock market, because through the course of time, it does this. It climbs and it goes up, and then boom, there's a crash. But it always seems to be that somebody has to lose for somebody else to win. A guy said, you should be a day trader. You're pretty quick on your feet. You got a decent brain. And I'm like, yeah, that means that I'm going to buy stuff. It goes up high, sell it. Somebody else is buying it at that price. It drop. It just doesn't seem like a win-win to me. And I know folks that were pulling out of their silver investment because things that didn't seem to happen fast enough, and put it back in the stock market. And the stock market's going to get crushed. It had some bad days recently, but at the end of the day, I don't understand why somebody would want to invest in perceived value or promised, future value on something new. Silver and gold have been the foundation of the financial system for thousands of years, and it's always a tangible asset. It's never going to zero, right? It can't. Stock can go to zero. But by the way, folks, if Kirk and I talked about this recently, we'll probably talk about it again this week. He's expecting by the first quarter of next year to be up to 120 to 140 an ounce. So when people think, oh, it's too late, it jumped up. Are you kidding me? It's like, at Bitcoin, Bitcoin was what, a penny, but it went up to like, $400. Oh, that I missed that, missed that. I'm not interested in buying Bitcoin, right? And it goes to $110,000 or $20,000. It's a mindset people have. But when you look at the emerging architectural foundation of the new financial system, the baseline is it's backed by a hard asset that has value because it's never going down, gold and silver. So if you want to, you can see going across the screen, by the way, you see Dr. Kirk Elliott's information. Anytime's the time to get in. I would definitely reach out and have a conversation. I say to all my audience, have the conversation for your situation. Because if you start buying a little bit of something, it's better than a lot of nothing. So if you can get vested in precious metals, primarily silver's the best ratio, and showing what's happening in terms of $7 trillion of investment coming to the US, it's going to be technology. All electronics, all weapon systems require silver. There's not enough silver being mined in the world. London's completely out. London's is the hub, the whole silver global market. They're out. They don't have any silver to sell at all. And it's created, some real problems there. So it just goes to show you supply and demand's playing a part of it, and the emerging future technologies it's going to suck it up. So I would dare say it'd be a great investment no matter how much you can put in. But you can see Kirk's number going across, psfsilvergold.com. You can go on and connect that way, do some reading and research. But if you do have a consult, if you do research and it doesn't feel right to you, don't do anything. Listen to your instincts. listen to yourself, trust yourself, go by your gut feeling. If it doesn't fit you, that's the universe saying, not right now. It knows what's coming your way that it may have a reason. So it might be a reason why you're more comfortable holding off. Anyway, so if you want to dig further into the whole financial aspect, you said there's a lot of other things we could talk about. Since we're on that part of the subject, what else do you see out there that looks to be an indicator that this system is being implemented laterally or parallel to the system that we're dealing with now, the Rothschild central bank crime syndicate?
Yeah, Scott, as I see it, and again, I'm not an expert in these matters, but I surround myself with a lot of experts from a lot of different walks of life, and I've done some homework. I want to comment back on something you said a minute ago that's very important for the rise of silver, in part for the rise of silver, and that being technology and AI development and all these type of companies. I come to learn that over 90% of the market performance right now is in that sector. So the market, even though the Dow's at 47,000, isn't really a healthy market. But it's mostly being driven by the AI related issues, which is a demand for silver. So I'm just reiterating your point. Also, for those that understand biblical wisdom when it comes to investing and debt and money, one could easily say gold and silver is God's money. As you stated, Scott's been around over 6,000 years. It's never been worth zero. But look, the bottom line is how I see it playing out, as I understand, the quantum financial system has been beta tested, if you will. Everything is set online and ready to go. That's the parallel. Now we have the dead and dying system that's playing itself out. Most of the experts that I interview and speak with concur that there's going to be a collapse. This isn't a fear conversation. It's good news. Let it collapse. Okay. And so they're talking about a collapse of the stock, bond, and real estate market. And bonds have already begun. Real estate market has already begun. The stocks will follow suit. 107, our good friend, is reported a long time ago, and now it's playing out, that the bond market collapse will emanate from Japan, and that is exactly what has happened. Even Jamie Dimon, who I'm not a fan of, but the CEO of Chase, has put some stern warnings out about massive, like unparalleled bond issues. Juan's on the record stating that LA and New York, to cite two corrupt, once great cities, these two cities are really going to suffer because of the municipal bond collapse. Then you got the character, the mayor in New York City, which I understand the president's not going to be supporting with federal funds because he's not going to support socialism and communism and Sharia law in our country. So, folks, get out of the system. Buy some gold and buy some silver. For those that don't have assets to protect, can't buy gold and silver, there's so many ways to approach all this. That brings us to the repatriation of wealth. That's part of the financial shift in system. That $38 trillion of federal debt at usdebtclock.org is not ours. Even Elon Musk published something recently. He's being used in a lot of interesting ways. But the bottom line is, or the replacement of Elon Musk, in my opinion, and that's a wonderful thing. But now we're getting into a different story. But I want to finish off the economy because we'll probably get into a lot of other things. Is the where was I going with that? Right, Elon, the debt, the 38 trillion, the lion's share of that debt is not ours. It's not we the people because of the fraudulent system it was based upon. And this is going to shake itself out through the bankruptcy of the U.S. corporation and all that stuff that's playing out. And at the end of the day, and I think you could take this to the bank, actually take it to the metals dealer, take this statement all the way there. You've got
That's right.
You've got that debt going right back on the balance sheet of who created it and who owns it. And that's the Federal Reserve and the central bank. And that'll be the final nail in their coffin. So those that don't have assets to protect, because I know oftentimes we say, hey, protect your assets. And, a large portion of our audience is trying to buy lunch tomorrow. And I understand that. I've been there. Okay. And that's been done by design. Sure, you got some skin in the game. fighting the fight to become independently successful and wealthy. But the system was designed to make sure you couldn't.
Yep.
So no longer be a victim. That's going away. Latter part of next year, in my opinion, based on what the president has told us and based on the things I see going on, in short, there'll be a repatriation of wealth coming back to every citizen in the world, but we'll just keep it here at home right now to America. And for those without assets, you have them. They've been stolen from you. And the formulas are designed and set to bring that wealth back into us. And Trump will do it, in my opinion, this is a commentary, on a slow rollout, which is why we're all expecting a $2,000 check come June or July next year.
Mm-hmm.
It is the beginning of an avalanche of a system that's been designed to bleed out that money to all of us responsibly and so forth. I don't want to jump deep into that because it's speculative from lots of people I've interviewed. But that's my commentary for the lion's share of folks that don't have money. You will soon, because it's been taken from you through fraudulent contracts, through inflation, through money as debt, through taxation, and through mortgage contracts, bank contracts, of which aren't going to have any standing later because a lot of them were illegal. And that's all those that say nothing's happening. There's a lot happening, and that's just on the financial front. So there's a great relief coming to all of us. And I know this just seems unreal, and everyone's, I'm tired of hearing it and all that stuff. Hey, listen, I can't beat the dead horse and bring him to the water. You'll drink the water at some point because it'll be right there at your tongue. And that's where we're heading, and it's all good news. So in conclusion, Scott, there is the parallel systems where, in my opinion, based on all the people I interview and all the dots one can connect, we're going to have a collapse of the stock, bond, and real estate. So get out of that system and come into, there's other things you can do besides gold and silver, but gold and silver is a key component. There are 7 cryptos. I'm not an expert in crypto, but I've interviewed some experts. There's 7 cryptos, and they explain the reason why. I always like to know the why behind the narrative, behind a headline. They get into the why on those 7 cryptos. So those, once you're grounded in your gold and silver to protect your base, throw some money in those cryptos. American Bitcoin with the Trumps. You've got XRP, XLM, Ripple, and some of these other things. Start following. There's a gentleman I like. His name is Will Barney. I've come to learn of Will, former banker, very intelligent guy, knows the old school models really well, but also could hang with a Patriot Streetfighter audience quite well too. He's quite awake and understands what's going on. So I'm a student in everything and an expert in nothing, and just a relay point for people. So hang in there. Help is on the way. Make no mistake about it. And if I can read something from the president, Scott, it's very brief. On my cell phone, he just posted this a couple hours ago. And this may dovetail us into another aspect of our conversation about the target audience, or the MAGA wafflers that really feel like nothing's going on. I've got comments and opinions about that, but I'm going to read what the president just texted. This will open up those gates. Pam, I have reviewed over 30 statements and posts saying that essentially same old story as last time, all talk, no action, nothing is being done. What about Comey, Adam Shifty Schiff, Letitia? They're all guilty as hell, the president says. I'm quoting the president. They're all guilty as hell, but nothing is getting done. Then let me get focused. Then we also must put in a Democrat-supported U.S. attorney in Virginia with a really bad Republican past, a woke rhino who was never going to do his job. That's why 2 of the worst Democrat senators, pushed him so hard. He even lied to the media and said he quit and that we had no case. No, I fired him. And there is a great case, and many lawyers and legal pundits say so. Lindsay Halligan also is a really good lawyer and likes you a lot. We can't delay any longer. He's talking to Pam Bondi. It's killing our reputation and credibility. They impeached me twice and indicted me 5 times over nothing. Justice must be served now. President Trump. There's an address from the president published an hour or 2 ago on the platforms. And why I invoke that is here's my view of it. We're in a psychological psyop war of magnitude where we deploy just as many. They deploy false flags. We deploy psyops, and that's what we've been stuck in for 10 years. And so how do I read the president's post? Now, I could be wrong here. I'll put a disclaimer, not to cover my butt for down the road, but because I truly believe it. We'll know the truth of everything as we're starting to know the truths of things now, of everything in due time. Now, here's what I think is going on, and this comes from the military people I interview and the intelligence people I interview, and from my own observations. It's a game. It's a game. Trump has Bondi in there for one of two reasons, because it's the right person who's going to get the job done. Timing is everything. Or she's going to be being put there to be exposed like he did Fauci and Birx back in the day. In either way, we win. But what's happening is the public is supposed to be outraged, is supposed to be enraged, is supposed to be banging and screaming and, hey, where is my justice? Where's Epstein? Where's this? Where's that? Now, I don't do that because I feel like I have an understanding of the psychological operation of the war. So it's good news that everyone is pissed off and holding everyone's feet to the fire and so forth and so on. It's my opinion that that's exactly what the White Hats want to happen. We've got to get there. We've got to have the public enraged and demanding. And now Trump's got the left, loving drug cartel people that are killing our kids and begging for the Epstein files because Trump's in there. It's psyop all over the place. So listen, if you're pissed off, go ahead and rail against Kash Patel, rail against Pam Bondi, rail against whoever you want. It's all what the White Hats want, in my opinion. Me, I just sit in a real comfortable place. I hate to say just sitting back and watching the show. I'm doing my part. Trust me, folks, at my risk. But I really, it's a show. It is absolutely, the scripted events are happening. There's no question about it. And I'm just rambling all over the place here, but let it play out. And if you're pissed off, be pissed off.
Well, I could add a little to that. They say perception's 9/10 of the law, right? And that's true. Perception is 9/10 of the law. Your perception is 9/10 of the law. If your perception is that the Trump's going to screw us, if your perception is that he's part of the setup, the cabal that's setting us up, then you're going to always see things that indicate that. That's all you're ever going to see. If that's your perception. If it is that this is a military operation, look, if we had not walked through the course of 3 years with the intel coming at us virtually every day and studying it and digging up answers for ourselves because they didn't tell us what was going on, they'd ask questions, and asking a question is the opening, and follow with another question, and it starts to make you think, and then they just point over there, go look here, go look there, go look there. Made us go do the work. They made us go do our homework. They made us find it for ourselves. They knew where this stuff was. But if they tell us, whether we believe or not, may be true, or maybe it doesn't stick. But if we find it ourselves, we're not backing up 1 inch. That's why you and I have that frame of mind, because we had at least 500 proofs through the Q operation showing us things we would have never known had they not told us, and things that we were told before they ever even happened. Like Epstein, nobody in the world knew Epstein's name. Very few people on the scale of the world. We didn't know him either. Some people might have come across his cases in the past where Alan Dershowitz was keeping him from going to jail for, raping girls or whatever he was doing, underage women, or trafficking, whatever. They might have heard that in West Palm Beach area, but we didn't hear it. However, when he flew into Teterboro that day and was arrested, and it came out in the media, I can tell you there were tens of millions of us dancing in our living rooms like, holy crap, it is on, it's real, because they busted a guy that the world didn't know, yet we did, because we had learned 8 months earlier. So that being said, here's how I look. Here's one curveball that even the MAGA crowd is scratching their head over. And I've looked at this a couple of different ways. I've thought about it many ways. I'm trying to figure this out. And I don't know if I'm right. I'm just giving you a plausible scenario here for you to see why my thinking goes in this way. How do you have someone like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's been a consummate battle axe in Congress, going up against all the bullshit, 100% MAGA, pro-Trump, you name it. And all of a sudden, in a couple months' time out of nowhere, she now becomes anti-Trump. She's an attacker. Trump's calling her a traitor. She doesn't even call her Marjorie Taylor Greene. He calls her Marjorie Taylor Greene. She's now getting death threats against her, her son, etc. Trump, she's telling this to the world, and Trump's like, I don't think she's in any danger. He said, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I don't think she's in any danger. Now think about this. My question is, what the hell kind of psyop is going on right now? What is it? What are you trying to draw attention to, right?
Mm-hmm.
And from my point of view, it's either, and the reason people are getting pissed off at the courts, I mean, look at Diddy. Look at this absolute vile piece of shit. I just watched something on one of the channels, and it's called Sean Combs' The Reckoning. You've got to find this, folks, and you got to watch it. This guy is far deeper in a sewer of scum and crime and murder and gun charges and you name it than I even was aware of. You talk about a vile human being, the shit this guy has done. Again, who ends up handling the case? SDNY, Comey's daughter, is the lead prosecutor. You know why he only got 5 years instead of life in prison, which is absolutely what it should have been? Well, because she's the prosecutor. And they'll make sure that the guy pays a price because he's one of them. And they've got to make something happen, at least some incarceration, but not what he should have been nailed for, and that is RICO, where he would have been done forever. He doesn't get out again. His wealth stripped from him. Well, when you watch this and you see the testimony, you see the other people in his life, bodyguards to partners to artists, this guy raped everybody financially. I mean, artists that came in and he'd cut a record and boom, he'd make all the money. He'd keep having excuses why there's no money for them. And you listen to these people and you say to yourself, how the hell can this guy be not guilty of RICO and the other things that he was involved in? Sex trafficking, and they give him 4 to 5 years. Well, that's my point. This country needs to get so pissed off, number one, it's a double standard, and number two, because the courts are criminal. They're not just corrupt, they're criminal. So they're so pissed, and they have had enough of this bullshit that when the military steps in to start doing business of cleaning up the republic, they're not going to raise hell. They're going to say, F yeah, go get them. Get all of them. And I think that even, when you look at Marjorie Taylor Greene, a conservative MAGA Republican, once again, I've been trying to help Republicans understand this. I don't care what you think, that the Republican Party is a party of virtue. Absolutely not. Yes, the Democrats are outright in the open criminals. It's a crime syndicate. You've got a legion of traitors in Congress, likely 2/3 that are going to eventually end up in Gitmo. I believe that with every ounce of my soul. They'll be in Gitmo. The Republicans, in my opinion, are far worse. And I'll tell you why. My audience have heard me use this many times. The parallel is when Ayn Rand came here from Russia in the 20s, from the Soviet Union, to be a Hollywood screenwriter. She became the most prominent philosopher of the 20th century. I've studied and read all of her work. And one of the things she said way back then, like maybe in the 30s or something like that, 40s, I forget which, she said the true evil in America aren't the conservatives. She said the true evil or the true evil in America aren't the liberals, it's the conservatives. And I'm like, what? You got to look a little deeper to what she's talking about. She said the fact is liberals will tell you, if you give us power, we're going to socialize the country. We're going to turn into a socialist state. The Republicans look you dead in the eye and they say, if you give us power, we'll make sure it never happens. What's happened in 100 years? What's happened since the 94 Republican Revolution? The first time in 70 years, the Republicans controlled the House and the Senate. In fact, in the 80s, when Reagan was in power, as much as he got accomplished, the House was Democrat the whole way through. The Republicans had the Senate for 2 years. That's it. So the Republicans engineer, or Newt Gingrich engineers the overthrow of this dominance for generations. Takes the House, they take the Senate, and then they're dealing with Clinton. So what happens? Why'd Gingrich get run out of Washington? Because he's too conservative? No, he's cutting deals with the Democrats. He buckled during the major budget the government shutdown and a budget battle, and caved in at the last minute when Clintons were formulating their own concession letter to the House Speaker's office. That kind of bullshit. And then we have W. Bush, shrub, the guy with the lowest IQ ever in the White House. And I worked both campaigns for W. Bush, so I take responsibility on a micro scale. But here's a guy, we get the biggest spender since LBJ. He made LBJ's spending look like a piker. So we get all of this shit, and then we get wars in 7 countries, slaughtering human beings everywhere. $7 to $8 trillion of U.S. taxpayer, we the people, shoving out this money. For what? To go over there and take over countries for reasons that had nothing to do with weapons, democracy, which a word I hate. I abhor the word democracy. I hate it. Hate that word. It pisses me off when Trump uses it. We're not a democracy. Never were. The founders hated it too. They said it's one step from tyranny. They abhorred democracy. It's mob rule. Anyways, the point I was making on that, I chased a rabbit. What was the last point I was even talking about?
You're talking about the Reagan and the corruption of the conservative movement based on Ayn Rand's work.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So here you have all of that. And then we have the collapse of the economy in 2008 under the Bush administration, and his people in his administration, like Hank Paulson comes in, right? They're going to create bailouts. These criminal banks have been raping you your whole life, and then they set this system up on fraud. It collapses. The mortgage market collapses. There were people warning these guys, this is coming. They saw it was so bad. I can't remember what The Big Short. I just watched that movie, The Big Short. If you haven't seen The Big Short, go watch it.
Yeah.
These guys could clearly see, oh my God, look at this meltdown coming. Well, during the meltdown, we can sell these other products, which are going to be part of the massive meltdown, and get rich off of it. And they were being, the regulators turned a blind eye because they were getting rich massively. And Hank Paulson coming in and having you taxpayers bail out the banks. USA or AIG, same thing.
That's right.
Same
AIG.
thing. They should have let the system collapse because of it collapsing. Who went to jail? Who went to jail? Nobody went to jail. This is the bullshit I'm talking about, people. You commit one crime, you don't pay your tax, whatever, they park your ass in prison with an unjust sentence as long as they can. And this crime syndicate continues to operate. Then we have 2012. And the National Defense Authorization Act was a turning point for me. In 2012, I read it. And in this act, passed in the Republican House and the Republican Senate, passed, authored there too, likely, or handed over to them and they got bribes to pass it. Inside this act, in the case of a stated national emergency by the president automatically gets a kill switch on the internet, control the food supply, and control the energy grid. Like, are you effing kidding me? That is the kill shot. And the Republicans in Congress are passing it, handing it to Obama and a sign to give him this absolute power. I was like, this it. It's over. 67 out of 83 Tea Party Republicans that came in that revolution in 2012, every last one of them campaigned on one thing. We're sick and tired of these busted budgets. You got this budget spending is so insane. It was $2 trillion deficit when Bush came in. Bush won. It was $8 trillion when he left. Obama comes in, it's $20 trillion. Like, what the hell's going on? This is who these scumbags are. And so when the Tea Party Republicans all campaigned on vote for me and I'm not backing up 1 inch, I'm voting no on every appropriations bill if it's busting the budget. As soon as they were sworn in January 23rd, 2013, the very first vote these bastards had come in front of them was an appropriations bill. 67 out of 83 Tea Party Republicans voted yes. And when I saw that shit, I was so pissed. I'm like, it is over. We lost the country. We lost the country. And then Mitt Romney, Willard, throws the election to Obama. He was MK Ultra programmed to do it, which he did. You can see by the second debate and the third. First debate, he crushed Obama. And I was like, holy shit, this is going to happen in American history. A moderate Republican can never get to the presidency. Moderate Republicans cannot get in the White House. They got to be conservative or they never see those steps. And here's Romney after the first debate. It's like, holy Mary, Mother of God, he's going to shatter history. We're going to get a moderate Republican. What happened? He comes out in the second debate, gets beat all over the ring like Muhammad Ali and an amateur boxer. And the third came in. It was so disgraceful. I'm like, 5 minutes into the second debate, 5 in, I'm sitting on the couch with my fiance at the time, watching this, all excited. Second debate, 5 minutes in, my feet are kicked back. I just sat up and I looked over and said, "It's over. This election's gone. He just lost the election." Sure as shit, it was a drubbing. This is how we have to. The conclusion we have to come to. I don't care what party they belong to, folks. And I've said this for the last number of months. These people are liars, thieves, or killers. One of the three or all of them. That's what's come out of DC for generations. Lying to us, USAID, Doge, all this stuff showed this, how decrepit these swamp monsters are to strip us of our wealth to the bone while they're taking bribes to do it and privilege on the planet to do it. And they're killers because they're supporting and voting for these wars and these conflicts that are slaughtering millions of innocent humans on this planet under the guise of whatever you want to call it. Democracy or freedom or all this bullshit. It's not. It's a crime set against slaughtering people for wealth, power, and control. Both parties. There are two parties in this country. Two. Them and us. Them, those criminals in a controlling power structure. I'm talking state and local too. Against we, the people. Those are the parties. And when you realize that they've done all these things and they've built this machine to oppress us and keep us face down, you know why? Because they're scared shitless of you. They're scared shitless of we, the people. How do I know? Because they know we outnumber these bastards by the billions. That's why every dictator, when the people have had enough and are storming the gates to the palace, they get the hell out of Dodge. They take as much money with them as they can. They steal more from the people and get out of it. They go into exile. Why? Because they don't have conviction or principle. They're raping you. All of these people have done that to all of us. So when it comes to the Marjorie Taylor Greene incidences, I believe that is a controlled operation. I believe she's a patriot and she's playing a role to draw major attention to something that's going to emerge that they need you and we the people to see. So you understand why military is the only way. I way overspoke on that. I didn't plan on that monologue there. But, on a side note, I've had to sit in here for a minute, jump back to silver for a second so I can give you this information. It says right here, E333 threw in there, U.S. debt clock. It's on the U.S. debt clock. You can go see it yourself. On the far right side, it says unsuppressed price of silver is $1,160 right now. If it wasn't controlled, their price controls and suppression of silver, it's worth $1,160. Think of that. Think if it's $60 an ounce now, it multiplies itself times 20 times. Think of that. And somebody in here said, do you need money to invest in silver? Because that's my problem. I don't have any. I'm like, well, that's kind of a funny question, a silly question until I thought about it. Actually, no, you don't need to have cash in hand to buy silver. If you have an IRA and a 401k or both, you can legally transfer your IRA and 401k or both into precious metals. That's what Kirk Elliott does. He's an expert at it. Talk to him. You got an IRA, 401k, you know they're in the stock market. It's going to get crushed. Ask him, how does this work? How can I move all over into an investment of precious metals? And you get to save yourself. So if you don't have any money, there's a way you can still get it done. If you have an IRA or 401k, we've had, God, probably tens and tens of millions of dollars of IRA and 401k money brought over into silver, where people are making real money now from their retirement funds. Anyways, getting back to where we jumped off in terms of the Marjorie Taylor Greene, the show, the PSYOP, all of it. From there, let's go from there. You see the same things I do. You see that many of these moves that are pissing people off have a purpose to it, a distinct purpose.
You're right over the target, Scott, as usual. I believe we're in the phase, based on the occurrences that inturbulate or upset us, that don't make sense. We're in the phase of exposing, because this is the last step.
Mhm.
We've exposed the executive branch. We've exposed other aspects of government. Now we are exposing the lack of justice, and this will continue a little bit more until we reach where we're heading, and it's boiling the blood of the Americans, but by design, to raise the attention and awareness that the justice system is bought, paid for, and corrupt from top to bottom. You cited the Comey daughter situation before, and so forth. And if everyone thinks that Letitia and Comey aren't going to face justice, you're wrong. They will. And also, we're exposing that corruption, because all roads will lead to military. Our good friend Derek Johnson, who's very good at connecting executive orders and these sorts of things, cited some codes. I don't have them in my head, which I didn't realize. And it was a question I had asked the panel. And that is that civilians, non-oath takers to government, can also be moved into military tribunals. So we got all the control, and we're building the narrative of the justice system. We can't get it in the system, so let's shuffle them over to Gitmo, where they belong. Now, I know a lot of folks listening right now say they're already dead. It's already happened. Yes, some of them I would agree for sure, but I want to comment, because you mentioned Marjorie Taylor Greene. I'll throw a few more into that list that are highly speculative. And I hope your audience can see the pattern. The pattern is Elon Musk. Oh, him and Trump are like a bad marriage, yelling and screaming at each other and can't sit at the same table, and now they're friends. You got the same thing going on in the early stages with Marjorie Taylor Greene. Now is more than likely correct. You have maybe the same thing going on with Pam Bondi. We're going to find out. But it makes absolutely no sense, based on your analysis of Marjorie Taylor Greene, on how supportive she was and what a MAGA, person she was, and now she's over there on CNN and CBS causing all this noise. I consider it all theater, and I believe that that as an Elon Musk, who's a different story, but none of this stuff is to be taken for what it is on the surface. And I would ask our fellow Americans to just take a back seat to this. That's why I've always been saying, continue to expect the unexpected. Why? It's a psyop. And it'll all move into Gitmo. And anything that's already taken place, and it's not just Gitmo, everybody knows all the other locations, and the JAGs and the planes and the islands and different places where these processes, prosecutorial and investigative tribunals, are ongoing and have been for some years. Whatever's already taken place will be shown to us, and things that have yet to take place will take place. Deals been cut all over the place. I see the guy, Mr. Dell, and the strange bride there. I see the Dell $6 billion. I see Bill Gates, who said, yeah, maybe climate change, I was wrong. I see Zuckerberg acquiescing to stuff at that dinner. I see these three big players, just to name three, Dell, Gates, and Zuckerberg, are all being owned and controlled by Executive Orders 13818 and 13848, seizing the assets of those that have been found guilty of doing sex trafficking and other things. That's what's happening, in my opinion, and the theater plays out. Oh, what a nice guy Mr. Dell is, and here's $6 billion. No. That's the game. Same with Gates, same with everyone else. It's all happening. It's a massive, massive global undertaking, and everyone needs to, from one side, internally, calm down. We got this. But on the other side of my mouth, if you want to use that expression, be enraged, make the noise, because that's what the SOP is asking us to do. But please, folks, don't get all worried about Marjorie Taylor, all the little nitpicky things. I don't follow any of the detail. It's hard not to. Everything drips on you. But I see the big picture, and you nailed it, Scott. It is focusing and highlighting on that we don't have justice in the civilian system, and let the people be enraged and outraged and so forth and so on, till we get to the acceptance point to bring it all in to Gitmo, and then to release the footage of Hillary and Obama, and new people that will be taken down, perhaps Comey and others. The people will then accept it. They got to beg for it, so we don't have a societal collapse. That's a layman's version of the PSYOP. Mm-hmm. So on one level, folks, relax, pray, plan, and prepare, and get ready, because the shit show, as you state, Scott, is about to get really, really real, and it is already real. Mm-hmm. And then lastly, look, you either trust the plan or you don't. You trust in you have faith in God or you don't. Mm. You can connect the dots on what is happening or you can't. We've all done the very best we can to do that, and I do it on my military panels and intelligence panels, and so forth. But if people want to forecast, which we need to be careful about, in my opinion, any time between this month, and I'd go as far out as March or April, that what everyone's waiting for, the big arrest and all that stuff, all this stuff plays out the way we're watching it play out. And it will be revealed by then. And it has to, in my opinion, because of this simple, keep it simple, Sam. President Trump has told the nation we will be celebrating in July. Not just for our 250th anniversary, but for the true freedom and tyranny being lifted off of America and all of mankind into a new golden age that will be dawning, and so many other things. So if we are celebrating and having nationwide shutdowns and block parties on this massive extravaganza, and we're building this ballroom besides what they're doing underneath it and all that other stuff, is you can't celebrate if you're still dodging bullets in the streets, if you still have all the problems that we have. By and large, what everyone's waiting for, in my opinion, will have unfolded between December to this month and March or April, because you can't celebrate if you're still dealing with the catastrophes. So it's happening, it's coming, some of it's happened, will be shown. That's how I see it. I do believe there's the golden age, to me, in the truest sense, means the spiritual light and beings that we are, the Christ consciousness that we are, the children of God, if you want to use that terminology. All of that, golden age to me means you now have the ability to be that. All of the chains are coming off, okay? And the truths are being revealed. And to me, that's what the golden age means. Now you want to spin it off, it means art and music and entertainment, and the culture that's going to be created by art, that's shifting now. We can see that. We know the crazies over here. No one's watching the films anymore. We know who they are and what they are. And new patriots and new actors and new people, new talent. It's a renaissance on earth through entertainment, through art, through news, true information. No more playing games with money because of the wallets and the QFS. We've got it, folks. That is where we're heading. And I think the birth and a world without war. We're not there yet. In fact, here I'm in Thailand. Cambodia and Thailand are at it again. An hour flight for me there's 4 provinces that have been evacuated and moved into temples that they hope don't get bombed. It's fired up again here pretty nastily, if I want to use such a word. And the president, I hope, steps back in and sits these two down again and does the mastery that he does, because I know people personally that had to move out of their home right now to avoiding bombs. But I'm off point. The point I'm making, though, is we will end up in a world without war. And there'll be battles that go on and stuff, but they'll be stifled out. The world is changing, and we're heading into something extraordinary, and and that's really it. People just need to understand it's a psyop war and it's a military operation, and we are in control. And some people are never going to buy that narrative, and that's okay. They'll find out. They'll find out. You're still my friends. As long as you're not on the other side wreaking havoc, I'm with you.
You know, I see this, John, playing out. That was great, a great viewpoint. There's certainly a lot of enthusiasm in the chat room. Everybody wants us to move into this golden age, and you and I both know it's going to happen. And again, that's why this team, this Q team, and people say it's not a single person, it's a group. It's a group of there's less than 10 people in this Q operation that are feeding us the intel or fed it to us. I think they're doing it in various ways now. They're doing it through proxies like Scavino, like Trump, tweets, all these kind of things come out, public messaging. They don't waste any words. And by the way, there's 3 are non-military out of the less than 10. So if it's less than 10, it's 9 or below, obviously. And 3 are non-military. So the rest are military. So who are the other 3? Trump, Dan Scavino certainly seems to be, and the other would be our unsung friend, who's where we believe is off in the sidelines in the shadows, JFK Jr. That's what we believe. But these guys never wasted words. That's why they said multiple times, "You're watching a movie. Enjoy the show." Now think about
Central casting.
Yes,
How many
yes,
times has the
yes.
president said central
right
casting?
for central casting.
What? Come on.
Shit. I mean, he's telling us exactly what Diop said. And so if you want to have a perspective, a fun, a hopeful, a bright perspective of all this bullshit that just is unraveling here and things that irritate you, think about when you are watching a movie. And when you get blindsided, like there's this one, what I started doing in the last year and a half, I think, roughly a year and a half, checking out at night to shut all this stuff down, all this, everything going on in here all the time, all day, every day, push it out. If I can't be on my motorcycle, I find a series on TV to watch. And I discovered one called Blind Spot. It's truly amazing FBI type of thing. Anyways, every single episode is like, holy crap, I didn't see that coming. It's nonstop. It's just kind of thrills. Let's look at Marjorie Taylor Greene. How do you know? I see this as an operation. How do you know the focus of the operation isn't to draw out into the open who's paying these politicians? Because if she's worth $100,000 going in, now she's worth $10 million on $185,000 salary. Now she's worth $10 million. Maybe she's sent in there to cut some deals for herself and see who's bringing the deals to her. See how that's working. So you have somebody that can testify in court. Imagine how shit shocked those black hats on the other side when she sits down as deposed because of all this money, and they realize, yeah, she's being deposed because she was sent in undercover. How do you know that's not the operation? You got to look at this from that type of perspective. Again, this Khazarian mob has been running the show for 1,400 years because they are the best infiltrators. They are the best deceivers. They are the best at identity thieves, killers, you name it. They're the best at everything. And they've been able to get away with this for 1,400 years, right? They never even get close to losing. They're not only on the brink, they've pretty much lost, in my opinion, because the veil of secrecy has been shattered. That's the number one weapon they have, and our money, of course. But where they are today, if you're going to bring them down, you have to infiltrate from the inside. That's it. Just like this country, you can't bring this country down. Nobody can bring this country down unless you get inside of it. And it doesn't take much when you get inside a powerful machine. It's kind of like an M1 Abrams tank, most devastating war weapon on the planet, right? If it's going head to head with its own on-the-ground equipment, it's indestructible virtually. Yet you can get inside of one of those things, disconnect one little wire, you got a $30 million piece of metal sitting there, completely useless. That's how, what should I say, fine and minute the architecture of this type of evil control is. You find the right wire, you pull it, dismantle the whole thing. And they're in there gathering this intel to get that kind of information. Because until you know how this thing operates, you're always vulnerable. They've got people, they've been at this since Kennedy, since they killed him. They've been infiltrating this thing for 60 plus years now. Look where we are. Like JF Jr. said, his father's killers are going to be drug into the courtroom, whether even if he has to bring down the government to do it. Well, guess what? He meant what he said. And that's exactly what's happening. And it is going to bring down the government because it is a crime syndicate. And once we get back to the original Constitution, the courts are going to give way to the constitutional county grand juries in this country. We're going to the Republic. We're going back to the original documentation of the system, and that's the Constitution, how it was devised and set up. And that's the only piece of the machinery that guarantees that we, the people, keep control of our country and keep the politicians under our boot heel. The county grand jury. It's not stacked by people who are being bribed and paid off and not on the receiving end of the bludgeoning we've been getting. It's decided by the people who've been bludgeoned all of their lives. And they're not playing games anymore. They want truth and justice. If you're honest and you're not guilty, they'll see it that way. If you are, off with the head. That's what's going to happen. So anyways, let's look at potential military moves that are being made around the world based on the shifting that you're seeing going on. By the way, just a shout out to Vladimir Putin. Thanks again for calling out the world power structure in the Western leaders as feasting on the blood of children, adrenochrome and devours of children. Thanks for coming out in the world and telling them that again, because Putin said, I think it's Putin 7.0. It's not 1.0. It's like 6 or 7.0. They've got him set up doing a great job because he's now coming out in front of the world and saying these people are feasting on the blood of children. It's an adrenochrome factory. So these are big bombs that are coming out. Every now and again, another big one comes out, waking the people up slowly. What do you see happening in this global scale right now with the plan militarily? What are you hearing?
Well, I'm going to directly answer that, but I just want to say this. It's coming to my mind. We're still being pushed to the precipice, to use the terminology. That has to happen, as we've reiterated before. Now back to so that the demand for justice, that when the big arrests happen and the things are seen, we don't have societal breakdown. Now, as far as militarily go, it's my understanding the president deployed, and there was 500 National Guard positioned in every state. And as a result of the National Guardsmen and women that were gunned down in D.C., I understand they doubled it. So now there's 1,000 National Guard troops prepared per state, never mind the hot pocket states that have quite a bit more. And of course, all factions of the U.S. military in the wings. So what are they preparing for? Well, they're preparing for something. Okay. And so at least domestically, we have that going on as this show plays out, and the people are pushed to the precipice and they're enraged and they just can't take it anymore. This is why Juan O'Savin, and for those that take cheap shots at Juan, let me tell you, the man's taken 2 bullets running from goons against him over these years. He has been serving this nation mostly clandestinely since the time of Ronald Reagan. I can say this on your show, Scott, because he finally said it on one of my shows and on perhaps others that he hadn't said publicly, but told me many years ago. He was one of the 5 individuals that were favored by Ronald Reagan in the day to help bring down the Soviet Union,
the ruble,
and the wall. Yeah, by collapsing the Russian ruble. Now, Juan just recently reported 17,000 pallets. His eyes and his people's eyes physically saw 17,000 pallets, each pallet with, and your audience won't believe it because we don't know how many zeros it is, 17,000 pallets with $100 million on each pallet that his eyes and his team's eyes have physically seen. And they said there's there's an estimated 100,000 that they speculate are out there that they're trying to track down for full verification. These pallets were set up by the enemies throughout the world to dump it into the system like we did to the Russian ruble, to collapse the US dollar and bring us to complete utter starvation and desperation to stay in the central bank digital currency system and deploy their control mechanisms on us through this Chinese credit score system. Thank goodness these pals have been identified, and now we're going to thwart that operation. But you might say, well, you're going back into financial. Well, it's a war. You asked what's happening on the war front. That's happening on the war front. As far as Venezuela goes, there's far more that meets the eye than what we see happening in Venezuela. Besides the obvious of how many hundreds of thousands, if not more, of young people in America or any age are getting killed from fentanyl and the other drugs, well, that's a weapon. It's a weapon of death deployed, and that is being stopped. They can have the narrative that it's unconstitutional and play all that noise. I don't tune into any of it because it's not, and everyone who does their homework will come to realize that. But the real events in Venezuela are about election theft. Patrick Byrne, who I interviewed on Conversations of Consequence a month ago, and recently Emerald Robinson did a great series of discussions with Pat Byrne, and all that's out there. But there's a bounty on his head, I think, for $25 million for what he learned there, and so forth. I'm going to read one thing to you here. Venezuelan president, well, I'll call him president, the guy who hijacked that country, Maduro, has now turned in state evidence against the Biden administration and is releasing proof that Biden asked the Venezuelan government, when the imposter was in office, asked the Venezuelan government to ship over here Tren de Aragua, the drug gangs, into the United States. So much has been unpacked in Venezuela from Patrick Byrne, hats off to Patrick Byrne, and to others at great risk that are being now fully revealed. Smartmatic, I forget the name of the company, it begins with the D.
Dominion, Smartmatic, and Hammer.
Yeah, Hammer and Scorecard, all of that has been validated by recent events from Pat Byrne and others. So you asked, what's happening on the war front? Well, we're coming after Venezuela. We're getting rid of the drugs. We're exposing all of this. We're going to straighten out that corner of Venezuela is the most powerful place in the Caribbean, if you will, all the island nations and so forth, and South American countries. You got to start there, and the rest will follow suit because they're going to be scared to death because there's a new sheriff in town, and his name is Pete Hegseth, under the commander-in-chief, Donald J. Trump. So we have that going on in that sector over there. You've got England, London, and France, and Europe has completely fallen to the Muslim issue. We've got our own attack against. And, I know it's controversial, and I don't get into the National Enquirer version of news, so I'm not going to go there. The Somalians, you are exactly right. I read a report that the average IQ in Somalia is far below 80, which is a level above Forrest Gump. Okay, so, that's what we're dealing with over there. Mm-hmm. Trump is right. Get him out of here. And it's nothing to do with religion or color. If you came here illegally, going right back to your monologue, Scott, you need to go, and I'm fully supportive of that. So we are fighting this war on multiple fronts, from the currency to the economy to the drugs to violent dictators that have taken over other nations. President Trump is supreme commander-in-chief of the global allied forces, setting humanity back on a course correction, starting right here at home first, External Revenue Service, end of the Fed and the IRS. I can go on and on, folks. It's amazing what is happening. Don't cling to the National Enquirer version of things. Rise above all the knee-jerk reactions about Epstein and Trump and Marjorie Taylor Greene and Musk. Don't worry about it all. It's fanfare. It's all part of the show. Mm-hmm. And I know people say, well, people are dying. You know what? People die in war. This is the war of wars.
Yes, it is.
This is the final satanic evil against the light of God and all of us that it's to shine through. Mm-hmm. That's the battle. That's why it's the battle and the war of all wars. So there are casualties. I'm not insensitive to it. Scott and his father, and we can give you a long list of casualties, my own health, a lot of things. And then people are dying. There'll be more dying from the biological weapon. It's horrible. but that's war. And it had to be this way. So here we are, folks. We're almost there.
Mhm.
Never, I'm not preaching to you. I'm preaching to myself too, because it gets difficult and dark for me too. Never, ever give up. The light is there. That's what you gravitate to. Keep your eye on the mountain and let it play out. And I'll go on the record. In my opinion, between now and certainly before the July 4th, I estimate March, April, everything you're waiting for is going to unfold. And it already is. Look at the news narratives. And by the way, we control to a large extent mainstream news because of executive orders 138181 and because of U.S. Section Codes 2384 and 2385 advocating the overthrow of a government and seditious conspiracy, which is what the media is complicit of at best, cutting them some slack because they knowingly reported false information, aiding and abetting the enemy and overthrowing our elections and everything else. We got it, folks. This is a massive, massive operation, and I hope and pray JFK Jr. is alive. I've waffled on that. All I can say is I think he is. We'll find out. We will find out, because if he is alive and has been part of this operation, to me, again, I'm keep it simple stupid. I'm keep it simple Sam. I'm keep it simple sweetheart. Okay? And I do have an IQ far above the Somalian average. I'm not a genius, but I'm above the most. But IQ isn't everything. Character is everything, and demonstrative results in life of how you serve others is everything. But what I'm getting at, and I've lost my point, is
the patience, the war, massive.
Just we got this. It's coming, and I believe that that's really it. I've lost my train of thought because I'm all over the map. I usually don't get interviewed. I appreciate being a guest on your show, Scott. I just don't have the time, and I'm being in the other role. I'm constantly doing military and intelligence panels to bring the truth to people. So when I have a chance to unload, I'm seeing that I'm sort of a loose wire going all over the place.
It's perfect.
Apologize for that.
This is great information, brother. That's why you're here for me to turn you loose. My audience, they're sick of hearing me. They want to hear how you see it. By the way, just an FYI, JFK Jr. is alive. I actually, point blank, I won't mention, I can't say who the person that I asked who would know, but I finally cornered him one day and I asked him, I want to know. And my question is exactly that. And the answer I got was yes. And this is a very high up level source who probably knows more than anything or anybody that I know who would know. So,
Scott, you brought me back to the point I lost. And if I can interject it, it was about Junior. I was saying I'm a keep it simple Sam guy, and I had something to reveal. Well, here I'm revealing my thoughts. My thought on JFK Jr. is, if he is alive, and you stated he is, and I know you, incredible guy, and you've got good sources, and I'm gonna say he is as well. Even though I've had an NSA source who fought counterterrorism for many years, who told me he can give me the phone number to the SEAL who brought Junior's body up from the bottom of the ocean. You know what? I didn't even call the guy because who knows? All I know is this. This is what I wanted to get at. I wanted to get to this point. I want to get to the point that if Junior is alive and he doesn't surface, it would make no sense to me that he will not surface, because the biggest bang for the buck is the surface, as you and I have talked about before.
Yep.
That instant healing for the world it's done. So I believe he will surface. Mm-hmm. I believe that. Now, I want to share this with your audience, and very sensitive on the subject of 107 and JFK Jr. And the only reason I'm willing to go there, and I'll withhold just a little bit, one of the definitions of responsibility is the ability to withhold. And it's just a judgment call for me. So, but I will say this because I know I now can. All right, we're going to say this. Is 107 JFK Jr.? That's a big narrative that's been permeated out there, mainly put forth and carried on to this day by Kerry Cassidy, and God bless her. She's done great work. Is simply this. The answer is yes and no. What do I mean? Okay, here's what I mean. Now, I've met 107. Your audience may not know this. My audience knows it, but it may be a first for your audience. So I'll spend a minute there. I've known Juan about 7 years. I've got in the same room, face-to-face time with him to the tune of well over 100 hours. 3 nights at my house. We've done speaking together with his boots on camera, not his face. I've interviewed him, I don't know, dozens and dozens of times. I've had a lot of conversations with him. We even had FaceTime at a hotel in Thailand when he and Jennifer Mack paid a visit to me, which I was honored because it's an expense and a headache to do that while Juan was taking care of business in Asia, in Singapore and Japan, talking to the money leaders of the world. He took the time out to divert his travel and get a visa and a hotel to see me. And we spent 16, 18 hours chatting face to face. What I'm getting at is I know 107 fairly well. And he shared a lot of stories with me when he was a young boy of how he got into the clandestine operation, and which became his life's work in part. And I can't share those stories just yet, but I will say this. When I said, is he JFK Jr.? It's a cliffhanger. Yes and no. The no is, no, he's not. He's fictitious name 107. Okay. Why do I say yes? Because I've come to learn that he and Junior have been friends since childhood. And Juan is some years older than Junior. I think Junior's 62, would he be? 65 maybe? Someone could figure
It's
that out.
1960. He was born in 1960, roughly 59 or 60. He was born.
So he's 65 years old. Okay, 2 years younger than me. I watched him as a little boy salute the funeral. I was alive and watched all that happen. I was alive. I remember exactly where I was when that helicopter crashed. I'm not sure if he was in it, what the story was there. But I want to conclude the 107 because I can go this far. And I will say the yes and no. I like to back that statement up. No, 107, whatever his real birth name was born as an individual entity of whoever that individual is. Why I say yes, he's JFK Jr. is because they've been friends forever. They've had time on Martha's Vineyard together. They've spent time together. They've been working together. And they swap identities to this day. And that's where the yes and no factor is. So Kerry Cassidy's credit, yes, but also people have maybe misunderstood, or maybe there's been some misleading. I don't mean to create a controversy with Kerry. Happy to get on her show with her if she invites me. But she's right to the extent that through voice modulators and other things, they have played different roles for different reasons in this operation. That, if that's true, then of course he's alive. So, but all those, because it's a controversial issue, a lot of folks are dead set. Yes, he is. You got Gene Ho and the helicopter and the picture of running up on Mount Rushmore and all those stories. There's so many stories we get into. If you want to do an episode on that, I bring Rachel Rightside Blonde in.
Oh yeah,
and
she's
you, me and her can have a conversation.
We need it.
For
Yeah, that's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna schedule a show with you, myself, and Rachel. That'd be fun. Yeah, and by
let's
the way,
do that.
Look, look. Many people don't know that Junior, one of his passions was theater, acting. He wanted to actually be an actor. When he was dating Daryl Hannah back in the day, he wanted to become an actor. His mother's like, absolutely not. She's no, you're not doing any of that. But that's kind of his passion. But think about being on this kind of stage in this kind of theater. I mean, look, we certainly know that we believe that he's also dressed up as Vincent Fusca.
Fusca.
So, there's if you think about making sure you can never give any indication that your identity is compromised. If you're going to go out in the public, you're not going to go get a CIA style disguise with a fake mustache and all these other things, because again, even with modern day AI, well, let's not say modern day, let's just say with different technologies they've had before the AI revolution came on, they still can see everything. And so guys out there walking around and like, hey, we don't have a profile on this face at all, right? Like, what is it? Is that, who is that? now they're suspect because that's just a person made up. But if it's somebody that's dressed and fashioned exactly like Juan, that's Juan. Or there's Vincent Denver or Vincent Fusca. Yeah, you see it and then you just keep on moving on. You've got to play this game at such a high level to fake out anybody and everybody. You got to think it through. So, anyways, with that being said, it comes back to something I said in 2020, probably early when I started this radio show. I was reading some Q drops, and then it's listing this long dissertation of different bullet points and questions and all these kind of things. And obviously it's some kind of an energetic conflict in the narrative. And then it gets to the end of it and it says a couple things. I should go find it. But it says, and I believe this one was in capital letters. Just give me 2 seconds to see if I can pull this up quickly. And what it said was, see if I can find it. Amongst all this information, it says the world will be united. And when I saw that, it's not shown in this view post. I said it back in 2020. I said, look, I can't think of anything. You look at the chaos of the world. You look at the animosity that nations have for each other, or even cultures have for each other. But all of that animosity is driven by the heads of state, because we have no problem. Why do you think we travel the world to see and visit other cultures? We're fascinated by their cultures, their lifestyle. We want to learn about each other. There's nothing, for the most part, the people of the world have love for each other. They have curiosity. That's why we travel. That's why we want to see how they live in other places. But yet, we have conflict between nations. What isn't them and us? It's the damn leaders. It's the criminals at the top.
That's right.
They're orchestrating conflict. It's part of their stage. It's part of their global theater. They've been playing this forever. Their theater, right? So I thought that day when I read that, I thought, the only thing that comes to my mind of what would unite this world, there's the only thing I know, is the reemergence of America's favorite son, because of who he is and what he stood for, what he lived for, not to mention what's indicative of that kind of a sacrifice for the world. And he comes out in front of the world. I can see it all over the planet. In this day and age, you probably have maybe 1 billion people that do not know the name JFK Jr. Probably everybody else knows the name. They know who he was, his father and him. I could see people all over the planet, if he emerges and it's covered by global media, and here you see him like John Galt style from Atlas Shrugged telling the story. You will see people dropping to their knees by the millions all over this country, bawling their freaking eyes. I would. Look, I was programmed anti-Kennedy, Republican. Kennedy was a scumbag, Democrats, all that bullshit. Again, he was a Democrat, but they destroyed him in any way they could, his reputation, because he was going against the cabal powers. He was going to take steps to bring him down. And so had this mindset, but we still all had some affinity for Junior, or a great level of affinity for Junior, because this guy was royalty, but he lived his life as the guy on the street next door. No different. You saw him cruising around New York, riding his bicycle through the park. He didn't separate himself.
Skateboarding.
Skateboarding. He never separated himself from we the people. And I've been told by others, he's just the greatest, nicest guy. You imagine him emerging, the world, his credibility of helping the world understand what happened to humanity and what was done since they killed his father, to give humanity back, to bring the angelic realm back to the planet and given us the Eden we now get to refashion and build. Everybody, it reminds me, if you've seen this scene, it's a great movie, Armageddon, Bruce Willis, Ben Affleck, these other cast of characters, Billy Bob Thornton. And so at the very end, there was a zero barrier line when this meteor's coming in. If they can't get on top of that asteroid or meteor and get a nuke in there on the fault line, blow it, split it in two so it splits off and misses the trajectory of the planet Earth, It's over for humanity. It's a globe killer. It's an Ellie, Earth light or Earth. What do they call it? Ellie is a uh, extinction level event, and that's what the movie was about. So what happens at the end? The mission fails, except Bruce Willis stays behind when they get the hell off of this thing. He stays behind because he manually has to detonate this thing because of something that happened. And the whole world hears in the global media the mission has failed, and everybody is facing their own mortality. I mean, the sorrow, the sadness that we're going to all be wiped out. And then all of a sudden you see this massive thing happen in the sky. It's cosmic, and it's obviously the damn thing, detonated, and they can see the split. And then the music plays, and you see people you see the news is coming over the radio, the TVs, but there are places like out in Scotland, there where the sheep farmers are. They're plugged into a radio outside of a little shack, and everybody, the whole world's listening. And to watch that scene when they realize that the planet has been saved, and they're running around and they're hugging each other. Little kids are running through the streets with a NASA shuttle, like in Mumbai, like running down the street. Everybody's celebrating. The whole world was unified. And it was an incredible scene to watch. It brings me to tears watching it. That is what his emergence would do to the planet. The whole planet would believe him. May not believe anybody else, but there's one person on Earth. There's actually two people on Earth that would be 100% believed without question. And that's JFK Jr. or Princess Diana.
I agree. And just to comment on that, JFK, I was 5 years old. That was the end of the innocence. America took a dagger to our soul, and we moved. Yeah, and justice has never been served. Truth has never been revealed. So you're right. If Junior steps out now, that's a big healing situation that will bring everyone to their knees. And also it's instant proof that there was a plan, folks, and everything just melts down. And there's a long list of people. Some of it's probably not true. Some of it is. We'll find out eventually. But you've got a lot of people that you wonder if they really did die, like Michael Jackson, for example. There's a list of people that went up against the cabal in a lot of ways, that may have been unalived or killed by the deep state. But there's just so much we'll find out later. Like, for example, Charlie Kirk, see you in Valhalla. I know this is controversial. Maybe a whole lot of people will hate me right now, but Butler, PA, you can go on and on with operations that have taken place that on the analytical side are going to make absolutely no sense when you try and break it down. And I say to folks, don't try and break it down. The truths will be revealed at the right time, and they are right now. And again, it's just, can anyone argue with the fact that President Trump has said hundreds of times central casting out of nowhere? What is he? I mean, come on, people, come on. All right, Dan Scavino just published an image. I don't have it in front of me, but of Nuremberg, and it said Nuremberg. Something about Fauci. I mean, we're there. We're almost there. Okay, just sit tight, everyone, or get pissed off like the PSYOP wants you to do. I'm in a very comfortable position, even though I'm 8,000 miles away from targeted cities, and don't have to fear for my safety as my friends at home have to. But pray, plan, and prepare. General Valles told us that. Brigadier General, I interview Blaine Holt, Sheriff Richard Mack. These are highly qualified, important individuals that know things, and they're telling you no one's coming to save you. Yes, the military is going to take care of the chaos and it's erupting already all over America. We see it, but it'll get worse before it gets better. Juan still hasn't retracted that we haven't hit our near-death experience yet. So, folks, pray, plan, and prepare. I have a module. It's for free. You can go to wealthcoachuniversity.com. It's part of a 10 series, but it's module 7 called Preparedness. various ways you can and should be prepared for inevitable events that are coming. They won't be long lived. You know, whether the EBS is 3 days, 10 days, 30 days, pick your number, whether it's all encompassing or situational and compartmentalized, all of these things are going to happen, and to a degree already are. So trust the plan. It's God's plan. God, the military, the white hats, our man, the world's man, commander in chief, supreme commander of the Allied forces, Donald J. Trump, and you and me, Scott McKay, and we the people. That's how we did it. And I agree with you, Scott. Without the Q operation, which you phrased real well, it's a handful of individuals. Trump is Q plus. That's born and raised and functioned out of the Department of Energy, because the energy is the whole war of the world. Always has been, and that's going to be flipped on them now, which is why they got rid of Tesla and all that stuff. Folks, it's a big, incredible story. It's unbelievable, and we're alive by no accident or coincidence right now. So always ask yourself, when your children or grandchildren ask you, what were you doing when the global governance was being thrust down the throat of America and the world? What will your answer be? You better get off the couch and do something. It's still not too late, and most of you have been. And that's wonderful. And even if a simple thing like sharing Scott shows everywhere, do that. Do something to put the truth out there, so you can face your maker later and face the mirror for yourself today for posterity. Because everything we're doing now is for posterity, and the light is at the end of the tunnel. We're there. We're almost there. Even though I'm in Thailand, and real quick, 86 million bank accounts were frozen in Vietnam because they refused biometrics, a fact. I had my U.S. attorney, who's also got dual citizenship with Thailand. He practices law. He lives in Bangkok. I've met him many times. I've worked with him. 86 million bank accounts frozen in Vietnam because they refused the biometrics. 3 million accounts in Thailand here, too. I have a private consult with my attorney coming up actually today to discuss my own situation for preparedness here, because I've got money in Thai bank. I have that money in the Thai bank to keep my visa active. I'm afraid to keep it in the bank if they're going to freeze my account. I may not be part of that because I am doing online banking. I'm doing visual scans to get things done here. But anyway, I'm off point. My earbuds just went to sleep on me, so I hope the audio is still working for everybody.
Yeah.
But it's been great being with you here, Scott, and I appreciate the invite. I'd love to do a show with you and Rachel at some point.
Yes, I'll set it up.
Yeah, she'll be the star of the show, but you and I will add some interesting commentary and viewpoints as well, because we both have our own experiences concerning JFK Jr. But it's been
We'll
great
think up all the
talking with
questions. She can come up with all the answers.
She's got them. She's got some interesting points on the original George magazine, and a lot of different things. I like Rachel. I've met her personally. She interviewed me. You were on the premiere of George. I showed up a few months later, was interviewed by George as well when she was with them. She's a good lady. She's doing good work, and I think she's the best one to interview on the subject of JFK Jr. by far, hands down.
No doubt. We'll definitely do that. Two things popped in my mind here. One is a personal thing. It's kind of a slight to the world out there personally. But first was there's a reason why Trump has said more than once that they need to pass a law or an executive order decriminalizing somebody faking their own death. Why do you think he would say such a thing in this world at this time, folks? Yeah. Why do you think? Just out of nowhere, I'm the president of the United States. Okay, that's one point. Or even the King of England. Because let's face it, Trump is now considered officially, because of how they cornered them, he's King of England. That's why when he flew in, look how he's handled. They treat him, the Royal Guard treats him as if he's the king, because he is, and Charles is over here somewhere. He's in the royal carriage. Nobody in history sits in that except the king. And they didn't take him over to the main palace is Buckingham, right to Westminster. Nobody on earth goes to Westminster except the royal family. And here's Trump and Melania in the royal carriage going right to Westminster, standing out there getting a picture. But yeah, the George magazine, their initial release, it was kind of interesting because when they wanted to, have me be in the first magazine, and then they, of course, put right on the cover there, sit down interview with Scott McKay, Patriot, Streetfighter, and then Trump's on the magazine, which is, I mean, think about it from my scene. Like, I said, are you sure? Really? And I asked, I said, all these people, why me? He said, well, it's because you're like Trump. You're kind of disruptive, and a lot of people hate you. I'm like, what do you mean a lot of people hate me? He said, well, like a lot of people, to reawaken America, like speakers backstage. I'm like, what? You for what? He's telling me this. I'm like, yeah, they're just jealous or whatever, Scott. And I was like, you could have done without telling me that. Anyways, but I have one special experience in my life that turned out to be devastating, and all those things, nasty things said about me. People always make up shit to say, to try to trash you. And I just thought about this one person having to walk or go to work in the morning in New York City, walking past that Times Square billboard with the whole issue of George magazine up there, the first one when it's coming back, was a big deal. And I'm sure they were walking through that day and kind of looking up and seeing that billboard and seeing my name on it. It's like, yep, like, holy shit. I guess everything I said about this guy, everybody knows is going to be a total lie. That was just my own personal one of those. But the reality is, central casting, a law to decriminalize faking your own death, go through the list. Wow. These indicators from them to us, the people out here that are digital soldiers that are digging this stuff up and holding the line on this operation and not bailing on it because we don't see things the way we think a normal soap opera should be. That's what they're counting on. They're counting on our discernment out here in the audience, counting on our discernment to explain this to the people who don't know anything. Are going to be terrified when they see the events coming on to reset the world. That's what we do. That's why they're in the operation. So anyways, John, it's again, always a privilege, pleasure to have your time, have you here. And like I said, I'm always grateful for how you helped us put Patriot Streetfighter to an altitude couldn't have done without you, John, American Media Periscope, and your guidance and mentorship that I've gotten from you over the course of time has been invaluable. So I consider you guys an integral backbone to what we've been able to accomplish here. So mad love for you, brother. Mad love for you. I know the audience loves you coming here because you're one of the better analysts in how we see things. See what I'm talking about? He can't read the clock. He has no idea. I didn't say anything that indicates we're coming to the end of the show. But this guy's frequency,
He knows.
He is so tuned in every show.
Absolutely.
Before I say goodbye on a phone call, I'm getting mauled because he knows it's about time.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I understand that. Hey, Scott, thank you for your kind words. Right back at you. And I just want to close out with this. It'll take me 30 seconds. You just spoke about the digital warriors and so forth. I don't have it in front of me, folks. I didn't prepare anything except coffee. President Trump published on Truth or an X within the last week, thanking, and he used the term digital or keyboard warriors, praising and thanking us, yes, for the work that we're doing. He really, really did it. And I wish I would surface that. We can certainly go look for it. That's a nice validation on many levels as you think that through, that the president put that out. We're very close. We're very close to everything that we've been waiting for. And truth is, Scott, by you mentioning what you just said, how the president talked about decriminalizing faking the death, how many more dots do people need to connect of what is going on? It's right there. So relax, everyone. Right. Or be pissed off, be part of the PSYOP, but deep down, we got it. But pray, plan, and prepare, and we're going to get through this, and we will be celebrating in July. It is the dawning of the golden age, and I hope that I can remain healthy and alive for maybe another couple of decades. I am 67, and see this begin to unfold, and to live for the first time in our lives without the boots of tyranny hitting us from every which way to Sunday. The relief and the benefits, especially with repatriation of wealth and truth being revealed all the time, and morals being lifted planetarily, that vibrational level, because they can't play the games with the money anymore. Folks, process this. It is all spiritual. because it's that spiritual battle. And I think that's a good place for me to end off anyway. And thank you, Scott, for bringing me on your broadcast. And I enjoy talking with your audience.
Well, there you have it, folks. You've heard it all here. The simple fact is this: you are watching a movie. Enjoy the show. On behalf of John Michael Chambers and myself, much love to all of you. And Tomahawk, of course, Patriot Streetfighter out.